This is Studio to Studio. My name is Tristesse Seeliger, and my guest today is artist Fiona Ackerman. Originally from Montreal, Fiona Ackerman is a Vancouver painter whose work is exhibited and collected internationally. In addition to her studio practice, she has created large-scale public murals in Vancouver, most recently at Burrard and Robson, as well as several video and music projects, including a 10-minute projection for the 2017 Burrard Arts Foundation Facade Festival at the Vancouver Art Gallery. She works primarily in series. In 2021, her exhibition, The Cosmic Tiger, at Gallery Kremers in Berlin, explored metamorphosis and included an accompanying collaborative video piece. Later that year, her show at Oeno Gallery in Ontario was a modern look at botanical history. Her current exhibition, Lizard Brains at Gallery Jones, Vancouver, is a series of abstract paintings accompanied by a short story of the same title. It runs February 26 to March 26. So welcome, Fiona.
Thanks.
Please tell me about your new show, Lizard Brains, opening February 28th at Gallery Jones in Vancouver.
Lizard Brains is an exhibition of abstract paintings, and some shows are shows that I really want to paint. I mean, they all are, but some shows are also shows that I really need to paint. So this one was one of those, because I think that probably myself, as much as anybody, is sick of talking about the pandemic, but it's the story that's happening to us all. So I was doing great for the whole pandemic. I was really busy and doing lots of projects. And last summer, I had just finished painting my third exhibition of the pandemic, where I was just going to Zoom in for an artist talk. It was like one of these, cyber attendance things.
Yeah.
And I just kind of crashed. I lost sort of faith. I don't know. I just lost my groove. And I'm really an optimistic person. Usually by nature, I can see potential in pretty much anything. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really have an idea anymore of how I feel about anything, and lost my energy. And I kind of realized that I needed to do something different with my work. So I realized that I don't really have as much control. I can't just work my way through everything and keep control of my feelings and my creativity by creating projects for myself. Like sometimes things go rogue, and you just have to kind of go with what's actually happening and not what you think you're creating all the time. So I just decided eventually to give into that and to dive into a show that had no particular plan besides just following my own instinct and whatever comes out of it. So to give up control and just to follow the abstraction and follow my own work, rather than trying to have some conceptual idea and build a show around it. So it was very cathartic and fun and therapeutic.
Yeah. You sent a story, or there's definitely a story in a poem, writing that accompanies this series.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how the story, like, did the story come first, or did the paintings come, or was it sort of working together? And how does it kind of illustrate or elucidate the creative process for you?
Yeah. So the story is called Lizard Brains, and it's actually a true story, more or less. So last summer, while I was, had just finished painting the last show and was in what I just described, wandering around, just really, really stuck in my own head. Like just, you can really wind yourself up.
Well, it starts with this like heat, right?
Yeah.
So you're describing the heat dome we went through.
Yeah. And the general feeling, I don't even remember at what point of the summer the heat dome was. I just remember the whole time being like that, or when it started, when it ended, just this sort of overwhelming feeling. And I was at home. I didn't need to start working a lot yet, and there wasn't a lot to be done in the summer. So I was sort of having a break, but I was restless and, overthinking everything. And I was at home, and I just sort of caught my eye in the corner. There was a tiny little lizard in my apartment. And then, of course, that totally changed my day. And because I was so hungry for some kind of guidance, I was like, oh, I just need something to reach down and pick me up and shake me off and then set me down, pointing the right direction. Something, show me a sign. And then here comes this lizard. So I made way too much out of this lizard, right? And just decided, okay, has to be some kind of something. And lizards are kind of have a reputation or culturally to be, symbols of rebirth and rejuvenation. It had these whole layers of meaning that I was able to sponge out of this thing. And then also there's this idea of, in neuroscience, popular culture, it's sort of been debunked as sort of a flat earth theory, but it's still very commonly used. Your lizard brain, blah, blah, blah. It's this sort of nucleus in our limbic system where it's our very most primitive thought process, which only deals with survival and fight, flight, fornication, and one other one I can't even remember, but just the real basic kind of instinct, impulse part of you that doesn't overthink everything, that's not burdened by logic and emotion. It's just very raw and guttural. So that kind of all fed together with where I needed to get out of my own head and get into the studio and get out of my own way. Really, it's a story about not trying to force your intellectual idea of where you need to go and how you need to feel and what you need to do on top of a situation, and get out of your own way and just get with the program and go with it.
But how did that manifest? So one thing I noticed about your paintings is there's like really like structural aspects of it. There's like geometry, and then there is like definitely real gestural, sort of like looks like quick brush strokes, or there's mixed media. There's kind of all this push-pull in a lot of your paintings, as there's like representation and very, very much abstraction, and it's all very layered. But then how are you also hitting that, like your gut going with your, like how do you mix those two things?
I think it's more of say, compared to the last couple of exhibitions, I've been really, still am, but have been really interested in historical botanical illustration and bringing in a lot of themes and even just aesthetics from the old artwork into the paintings. So first of all, throwing away any reference to everything is a step. So just saying, I just said I'm not going to represent anything. I just want to try to only go at this with painting. And then how it comes out is just to not worry about the painting, not worry about, whoa, because of my education, my experience, I know that this color, like forget all that. Know it all. Stop painting with your head. All these things, like when somebody sits down to play the piano, if they're a decent piano player, they're not thinking about every single note they're playing. They're thinking about how they fit together and how they feel.
So you saw this lizard, you recognized that it was a sign for you, and
I gave it that
power. You kind of were like, okay, let's see where this takes me. I'm not going to set the goal, and that is the point.
And it's risky and scary because honestly, I didn't know if I would end up February 1st and I wasn't able to come up with any paintings that I wanted to show. Being asked, well, what's the show called? I'm like, I don't know what the show is yet.
So how does music influence you, and how does that play a part of your creative process?
Well, I think I'm probably not alone. Probably a lot of people who have studio practices listen to gobs and gobs of everything all day.
But you're
long.
A musician as well.
Yeah, I do play music, and I've written, quite a bit of music myself. And I realized that my approach to painting is often very different than my approach to songwriting, where songwriting is sort of extremely personal and raw, and sit down and don't even know what I'm going to come up with. And then at the end of it, be sort of surprised, like, oh, I didn't realize I felt that way, or you're so full of shit. Like, sure, tell yourself that, like
Yeah.
things come out in the process.
Mhm.
And I, for this show, really wanted to just apply that same approach, just to
Mhm.
learn about myself as a painter by painting, in the same way that you sit down and learn about yourself as a writer or as a musician by writing music. So, and listening to tons of music. I mean, music is sort of, I feel like when we really kind of connect with a piece of music or a piece of artwork, it kind of sort of reflects or reminds you of sort of a weird feeling that is familiar, but you don't really have a good grasp on. You're like, oh, there's something in there. Like, I don't know why I like it, is a completely legitimate answer, in my opinion. And for me, a piece of music,
But I like it.
I
just
like
don't know
it.
why.
It does something. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel great. Reminds me of some, like a smell.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know, somehow,
Yeah.
there's some kind of old story there that it triggers in a new way. And music gives the time framework to it. So you kind of put yourself in a time period, and the painting can kind of give you a place. So while I'm listening to all this music, I'm in this audio world of whatever I happen to be into that hour. And then I'm also at the same time exploring this visual place. And it's almost like you're creating somewhere for you to be, So at the end of a painting, if it works for me,
I like that.
Totally new. I haven't seen it before. I'm like, I didn't know I had that painting in me, but it's familiar because it's almost like a room in the back of your mind. And now you just got a picture of it. It's like, oh, that one, great. There are all these weird, brand new familiar places.
To me, I often think of like colors as notes and palettes as melody, or or a vibe,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's absolutely tons of connection between the two forms.
We have these 5 senses, right? And we think, wow, look at this huge spectrum that we're able to experience in our life, in our experience of life, because we have these 5 senses. But if you look at them sort of the other way around, and it's actually like we just have these 5 little tunnel visions, and all we can see are these 5 little pinholes, and there's way more out there. So we've got these little pinholes, and we've got ways into things like painting and art and writing and language and movement and all of these little things, and we try to like patch them all together into a collage to get a sense of what the hell's going on. And that's what we get. So it's not like one works better than another. They're all just kind of like a weird mishmash, kind of incomplete picture. With writing, you get to do all of these little play arounds, it's like, what is the story about? Almost nothing, one little thing happens. But for me, and I don't know how the reader reads it, but for me, there are different layers of things happening throughout the story that is something that you can't put together in a painting or a song.
Will you assign us an art prompt? So assign us a short project to get us thinking about painting or art influenced by your practice.
A good strategy to get out of your self-conscious mind is to go for quantity. It just as an exercise, and just say, okay, well, I'm going to do 20 of this, because if you make every single piece so precious and important, then you're going to get hung up on it. But just as an exercise, I find it often useful. I often do it between shows. I'll do a lot of paperworks and just try and like move quickly just to loosen up again, because you get too much in your head, into one little thing. You're like, actually, I have a small series of little paperwork studies that I'm putting into this show that are part of that process.
Where can we find you on Instagram, or what's your site? Just give us the deets so we can find you when we want to look you up.
Sure. My website's FionaAckerman.com, and the Instagram is AckermanFiona.
Thank you so much to Fiona Ackerman for this interview. Check out her show, Lizard Brains, and find her online. Thanks for watching.